All right, so today we're going to talk about upgrading to the Apple Watch Ultra 3. I'll give you my backstory on it, my thoughts on it, and I guess like some of the pros or cons, at least from what I've experienced. So I've had the Apple Watch Ultra 3 for almost a week now. I actually picked it up from the Apple Store. I traded in my Gen 1 natural titanium Apple Watch, and so far I'm pretty happy with this. So here's the backstory on the Apple Watch. Originally, when the Apple Watch came out, I didn't like it because it was like a 38 millimeter or 40 millimeter display, whichever one. The thing was tiny. It was too small. I know some people like that part. I didn't like it. The other thing I hate about the early Apple Watches were the battery life was just terrible. The fact that that watch wouldn't even last an entire day. And I mean like, 24 hours. Some people say, well, 18 hours, that's enough. And I'm like, not really if you're going to be sleeping and tracking your sleep and then having to charge the watch multiple times throughout the day. So I just really didn't mess with the first couple of Apple Watches. Then they came out with the Apple Watch SE, and I got the 46 millimeter one. I think it was like the largest display that you can get on an SE, and I was cool with that. But the other issue I had with that was just the battery life, and it got to a point to where I just didn't even wear the Apple Watch anymore because the battery life was just so terrible. Finally, I moved on to the Apple Watch Ultra Gen 1, and everybody had all the talk about it, like who needs a Ultra watch, who needs a titanium, blah, 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 this, and who needs this? It'll probably be $1,000. But I went and got it because it was, $7.99, and I got it through T-Mobile, and I had a deal where it was going to be bill credit. So yeah, I went ahead and got that watch. And to be honest, I fell in love with the Apple Watch Ultra series. I was all in on it because it had everything I needed. It had a battery for the watch, which would last up to almost like 3 days of normal usage. And then if you put it in low power mode, it could go like almost 5 days or something like that. And it was durable because the other issue I had with some of the earlier Apple Watches were that aluminum just wasn't durable enough for, doing work. Like you accidentally, hit your watch and it goes and hits a door or something metal or whatnot. Now you got scratches, you got a big old ding inside your watch. It didn't look well. I also just didn't like the fact that, I would have to put like one of those little snap-on cases on top of the aluminum to help protect it. So, yeah, I went to the Apple Watch Ultra and it was great. Like no scratches, no messed up display, anything like that. Fell off a scooter, had some other accidents, and the Apple Watch was still fine. So why did I upgrade from the Apple Watch Ultra Gen 1 to the Apple Watch Ultra Gen 3 if everything was so great? And to be honest, I didn't have to upgrade. Like it wasn't like my watch was at the point to where I was like, "Oh my goodness, like I can't use this thing anymore." No, it was just like one of those like quality of life upgrades. And so for me, one of the reasons why I upgraded was because there was a bigger battery or better battery life in the Apple Watch Ultra 3. And I'm the type of person where I don't want to charge my Apple Watch every single day. I have enough things in my house that I need to charge every single day. And the Apple Watch is just one of those things I didn't want to add to those. So the other thing is there's a lot of times where I will do the sleep tracking. And so I like to just charge the Apple Watch once and then do maybe 2 or 3 days of the sleep tracking. And then maybe when it gets down to 15 or 20%, I'll charge it back up. But the less amount of time I have to charge this thing, it's a lot less stress and it makes my life a lot better. The other upgrade, and this is the most obvious reason for this upgrade, is the color. Now, normally I'm not a big stickler on device colors or whatnot, but when it comes to the Apple Watch, and this is just something I just noticed over time, with the first generation Apple Watch and it came in natural titanium, at first I gravitated towards it because it was like a new thing. And I'm like, yeah, I would like to wear natural titanium for a watch or whatnot. But over time, with a lot of the, I guess, colors of the clothes that I wear and my preference, I was just wanting something that was a little bit more key or low key. I'm sorry. And basically, I kind of didn't really love the natural titanium anymore. And I found myself wanting a different color. Then Apple came out with the Apple Watch Ultra 2 in natural titanium. Then they came out with Apple Watch Ultra 2 in black. And it, to me, it didn't feel like a good enough reason to upgrade just to get a black color and not have any increase in battery life or anything else like that. So I waited. Apple Watch Ultra 3 came out. Now I have the black version, bigger battery. And then the third reason is the brighter display. There's not a massive difference between 2000 nits and 3000 nits. However, it's enough to where you can notice it. And I've actually noticed it as I've been, wearing my Apple Watch, going to work, going outside, going to the grocery store or whatnot. There are times where the Generation 1 Apple Watch, I would struggle to read the display in certain angles and in certain parts of the like direct sunlight. With the new Apple Watch Ultra 3, I have zero struggles with that whatsoever. So those are pretty much the main three reasons. Everything else is just like a little bit of a bonus. And if I were to tell anybody, let's say somebody were to ask me, should I upgrade from the Apple Watch Gen 1 to the Gen 3? I would say, yeah, it's a worthy upgrade. You don't need to upgrade, but you wouldn't be mad if you upgraded. Coming from the Apple Watch Ultra 2, it's a little bit more of a harder sell because the Apple Watch Ultra 2 had a brighter display than the Gen 1. Now, the display on the Apple Watch Ultra 3 is a little bit brighter than the Gen 2, but it may not be bright enough for you to justify that upgrade. Now, if you're coming from the Apple Watch Ultra 2, the Apple Watch Ultra 2 had the same battery that the Gen 1 had. So if you feel like your watch isn't lasting long enough or you want more battery life, then it may be worth it to go up to the Gen 3. Just as a little bit of a transparency thing, I did take my Apple Watch Ultra to the Apple Store. I did trade it in at the Apple Store. I think I got $260 in trade in for the Gen 1. I kind of thought that was kind of a decent deal because when I went onto Best Buy's website, they wouldn't even give me, I think, $200 for the first gen Apple Watch. So the highest trade-in value for me was at the Apple Store. So make sure you guys check your trade-ins. I didn't take a look at the Apple Watch Ultra 2 to see what the trade-in is on that, but it's probably going to be a little bit higher. So that could kind of help out with you making the purchase. The other thing that helped me make the purchase, and I mentioned this in the other video that I did, and it's basically because I went onto the veterans, website. You can get 10% off if you go through the Apple Veterans website. So that helps knock down some of the price. But yeah, for the most part, I still like the Apple Watch Ultra because I can still use all my bands. And, this is actually my original band that I got from, I think it was my Apple Watch SE. So this band has been around for a while. I still have my old Generation 1 Trail Loop band. And then somewhere around here, I have the newer band. And that's this one here. And I'm cool with it because of the fact that Apple Watch, they still have the system where you could take a band that was, 7 or 8 years old and slap it on here and it still works. One of the drawbacks with a lot of these phones is that if you go, let's say, from an iPhone 12 to a 12 Pro Max, or let's say you go from 13 Pro Max to a 17 Pro Max, the case sizes are different, and a lot of times you have to get like different accessories. Pretty much with the Apple Watch, it's very simple. You can have the same bands, and I'm cool with that. I know a lot of people were talking about how they wanted the Apple Watch design to completely transform, and they want a new band system because essentially they're just bored and they need something new to talk about. But utility wise, it's just great just to have the same system. You know, you just throw the band on there and go from there. Like nobody outside the tech community cares how new your stuff looks or works. Like most people just want the stuff to work, or they want to be able to use the old stuff that they have as long as they can, so they don't have to like run out and buy new stuff. But otherwise, everything else on the watch is cool. I will say this: I know Apple did advertise the watch having 5G connectivity and all of that stuff. And while that's cool, I just personally don't need it, and I probably won't use it. Right now, I'm using the Apple Watch just as an extension of my iPhone. So I don't have a cellular plan on it. I could put a cellular plan on there, but for the most part, I always have my phone with me anyway. So I don't know if I'll put a plan back on there, but I'm just glad I have the option to. The others, like the little stuff about the Apple Watch, the watch faces, they're cool. I like having the newer watch faces, the ones that came out with the Apple Watch Ultra 3, like the Wayfinder or whatever they call it. I like it. I'm down with it. I'm cool with it. The main thing I even use my Apple Watch for is not even going outdoors. I use it for the silliest utility stuff. And this is going to sound like old man Trent yelling at the clouds. But look, I got the Apple Watch. You know what the number one thing I use on this Apple Watch is? It's the Find My iPhone thing. So basically, I can just hit a button here, and then I can press a button here, and it's gonna beat my phone. And yeah, so somewhere my phone is ringing right now, but I use that a lot because sometimes life just happens, and I'll lose my phone in my bed or leave it in my car, and I won't know where it is. Yes, I could use like the little Find My thing, but sometimes it's just easier just to press the button, it beeps, and yeah, that's probably my number one used feature on it. But along with the Apple Watch, there are a lot of times where I'll be at work, or I might even be, working on my car, and I don't feel like pulling out my entire phone. So if somebody gives me a call, I can just answer it using my watch, and we can have a whole conversation. I can still work and not be worried about dropping my phone or losing my phone somewhere. So that is another big thing for me. And with that, for anyone that's ever worked on a car or anyone that's ever done work, it is nice to have a very durable watch that you don't have to worry about accidentally hitting it up against something or scratching it up a whole bunch or whatnot. And that's just another thing. Like it's a peace of mind thing. I don't really have to worry about it too much. Now, I know we said there's going to be some drawbacks to the Apple Watch. The only two big drawbacks to the Apple Watch are this. And you may not consider them to be big drawbacks, but they are the things that stand out for me. One is this charging cable puck or whatever. Yes, the Apple Watch can charge faster now and all of this other stuff, but the fact of the matter is just being solely reliant on this thing and not having any other way to charge this watch has led me to buy maybe about 3 or 4 of these. Well, 2 of these I actually got because I bought Apple Watches, but yeah, I still got 2 more. So I have one at home. I have one in my car. I have one that's in my office at work, and I have one in a book bag that I have to travel with because these things are just not just everywhere. Like everybody doesn't have an Apple Watch, and a lot of times if you go to an airport, if you go anywhere else, you're going to be stuck paying extra money just because you need one of these things. So that's just one of the big drawbacks for me. I wish I could take this Apple Watch and just throw it on a MagSafe charger and it just charge, but you got to use this. So there's the drawback. The other drawback, and this is, it's kind of a big drawback, but kind of a minor drawback because I'm talking about this like from the creator lens or whatever, right? And the main issue is this: you cannot switch. Well, not I want to say switch. You cannot have your Apple Watch tied to like two different phones. So let's say for whatever reason, and yes, it's a fringe thing. Let's say you have your Apple Watch Ultra and you have your iPhone, but you want to take your iPhone Air out. You want to use a different phone or whatever. You have to completely disconnect this watch from that phone to connect it to another phone. And I get it. I understand where, sometimes it makes sense, but I would just like the watch just interact with another phone and just do that. Just do that thing. you know. I know it sounds a little ridiculous, but that's just something it's just a drawback for me. Because when I got my new Apple Watch and I had my 15 Pro Max and I had my 17 Pro Max, I was kind of going back and forth between using the two, and everything else with continuity works. Like, if you get a phone call on one, everything rings. If this happens, but it was just this whole turnover thing that, I don't know, maybe I'm losing my mind or my brain didn't wrap around it. Maybe it's not even a real drawback to you, but that's just how I feel about it. Like, I want to be like just truly honest, but I really can't find anything else wrong with this. Not that I'm really looking for it, but that's where I'm at with this thing. So ultimately, when it comes down to the price for it being an $800 smartwatch, I still think that it is the best deal that you will get out of the smart watches that Apple sells or whatnot. Because to me, if you're gonna get an Apple Watch, you're gonna want the battery to last. Now, yes, you may want it to look like jewelry. I'm not trying to, say anything against you guys about that, because you do have the Apple Watch in titanium on the regular one. You can get titanium, but the fact that you're going to pay for titanium and that watch is only going to be like $30 to $60 cheaper than an Apple Watch Ultra, the Apple Watch Ultra feels like the best bang for the buck. I feel like Apple, if they wanted to, they could have charged $1,000 for the Apple Watch Ultra. They really could. They could have said, "Hey, $999, take it or leave it. You're stuck with it, but $799, and you're getting basically all of the features. You're getting the best of everything. You're getting the extra satellite connectivity and the 5G and all the other bells and whistles for $799. And then if you look at the regular Apple Watch Titanium, you're getting less durability, in my opinion, and more scratches and more this and more that at a very high price, which is very close to the Apple Watch Ultra. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Did you upgrade to the Apple Watch Ultra 3? And what would you guys like to see, or what would, oh my God, I can't speak. What would make you upgrade? See, this is why you don't record videos in the morning. I have to out of necessity, but this is just, yeah. Why would you upgrade, or why would you wait to upgrade? Are you coming from a Gen 1 to a Gen 2, or do you already have the Gen 3, or are you just waiting for the Gen 4? All right, y'all, take it easy. See you next video. Peace.